Okay, great. Okay, welcome everybody. Can everybody see the PowerPoint slide? I just want to check in and make sure. Good deal. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is the Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council Notice of Funding Opportunity Technical Assistance webinar. My name is Mary Ratliff. I am the former program director of the Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council with the Federal and State Grants Unit at the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. So today we're going to be reviewing the programmatic guidelines and how to apply for the Notice of Funding Opportunity that was issued on this Monday on October 2nd. I will be stopping momentarily for folks to ask questions throughout the webinar. I cannot see, I do have a couple of folks on that are going to help me, but I cannot see your chat when I'm in presentation mode. If you do have a question, you can put it in chat. Karen and Chelsea can interrupt me if needed. And ask the question, but I will be stopping throughout the webinar. So first of all, just want to talk about a few housekeeping items. Not everybody is familiar with WebEx. In the event that you need to refer to any of those materials that are presented today, this webinar is being recorded and we will have a PowerPoint available sometime, within the next couple hours, usually after the webinar. Both the PowerPoint and the recording will be posted on the ICJA website, where you find the Notice of Funding Opportunities, as well as on Amplifund. If you require closed captioning, in the lower part of your screen, you'll notice a text box with 2 C's on it. Clicking this will enable closed captioning for you. If you can, please mute yourself during the presentation, just so everybody can hear and is not distracted with any background noises. If you're unfamiliar with how to mute and unmute yourself, in the lower center portion of your window, there is a microphone. If the microphone is crossed through with a red slash, then that means you're muted. And if it is not, then that means you are not muted. Like I said, my screen is in full screen, and so I will not be able to see some of the chat that might be going on, but I do have a couple staff that will be helping me out today. Thank you very much, Karen and Chelsea. You can always use that chat, or we will stop for questions. Okay, so just to start off with this, some important dates, and this will be repeated throughout just because they are important dates. The NOFO was posted on October 2nd. Our submission for any questions, our deadline for submission of any questions will be on Thursday, October 26th at 5 p.m. Our applications are due on November 2nd at 5 p.m. We have a budget committee to review and approve all recommended designations from this Notice of Funding Opportunity. That will take place on December 14th, 2023. And the performance period for this Notice of Funding Opportunity, it really comes in kind of 2 sections. So in the state fiscal year 24 section, it'll be January 1st through June 30th of 2024. And then if those grantees have completed their deliverables satisfactorily, then there is an extension period in state fiscal year 25 from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Okay, so the purpose of the Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council is to improve the justice system's institutional, professional, and community response to family violence, including intimate partner violence, child abuse, teen dating violence, and abuse against older adults and people with disabilities. I like to think of domestic violence as an umbrella, and it covers many types of violence under it, including those. And so the Family Violence Coordinating Council really does take those all of those types of violence under that Domestic Violence Act under their wing and considers them when they look at the policies and trainings that are needed. We have a three-pronged approach. We support prevention, education, service coordination efforts for victims and perpetrators of domestic abuse, child abuse, teen dating violence, and abuse against people with disabilities and older adults. And you can see the three-pronged process in this diagram. We work with systems change, training, and community awareness. So just a little bit of explanation of that. Systems change is really working with those committees. The Family Violence Coordinating Council has a steering committee as well as other subcommittees, and they look at their local area in the criminal justice system and social service system to find gaps or challenges and barriers or what's working well. And they discuss those within those committees and help to provide development and change to have better community safety, safety for those who experience domestic violence, and safety for those who perpetrate domestic violence or cause harm. The first program requirement is that you identify the service area of the Family Violence Coordinating Council. Examples could be your service area could include a judicial circuit. Currently, the implementing sites that we do have with IFVCC grants they lie within judicial circuits. We are accepting applications where that service area could be just a county as well. So for our planning grants, many times with a notice of funding opportunity, we challenge our applicants to create their own deliverables. But because this is a planning grant, we really have mapped out a process in order to help you to plan to have a Illinois Family Violence Coordinating Council program. Therefore, the deliverables we have outlined for you, and you do not need to make up your own deliverables or goals and objectives. This is what they look like. So for the first 6 months, we ask that you engage and invite community stakeholders to become members of the local Family Violence Coordinating Council Committee, Steering Committee. Secure that membership by creating memorandums of understanding or MOU agreements between those agencies and your local Family Violence Coordinating Council. So by May 15th, we ask that you submit 3 to 5 MOUs to ICJA. We ask that you conduct a community needs assessment and submit a summary of those results. That also has a deadline of May 15th, 2024. And then we ask that you convene a local Family Violence Coordinating Council Steering Committee monthly with a minimum of 5 meetings, and that would be due by June 30th, 2024. At first, your steering committee may just be a couple of disciplines or professionals within your local area, but throughout this planning process, we are helping you to grow that steering committee. Like I said before, contingent upon satisfactory performance and funding, ICJA may recommend to its board a maximum of 12 additional months of funding after this first 6 months. And so this is what the second part of the notice of funding opportunity is, the next 12 months. So that would be from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. And during this time, you will develop and submit your local Family Violence Coordinating Council Steering Committee bylaws That deadline is September 1st, 2024. You would conduct a strategic planning and submit a 3-year strategic plan. That plan would be due by February 1st, 2025. And then you would convene local family violence coordinating council steering committees, just as you did in the first 6 months. We ask for a minimum of 10 meetings within this 12 months, and that due date would be June 30th, 2025. During the planning process, ICJA staff will provide technical assistance. So for those that are awarded, those applicants that are awarded, all throughout those deliverables and going through that planning process, we will provide example templates and resources for you, including a community needs assessment, MOUs examples, ideas for strategic planning, also some examples of what steering committee bylaws look like, and also some guidance on your operational models. That will include staff time as well as, electronic resources that we would share with you. So it wouldn't be as if you were out on your own just trying to figure it out. We do have staff to help you through that process. Eligible applicants are public and not-for-profit entities in Illinois. There is a little caveat to that. Due to judicial ethics with the Family Violence Coordinating Council, advocacy agencies are not eligible to apply. That does not mean that an advocacy agency would not be able to be a part of the Family Violence Coordinating Council. However, they would not be able to be the fiscal agent or the grantee that for the Family Violence Coordinating Council program. And that really is just a judicial ethics rules. We want to make sure that we are transparent and upfront, and judicial participation does not allow for an advocacy agency to hold that grant. So examples of eligible applicants include like government agencies, local or county government, educational institutions and regional offices of education, or non-for-profit agencies that exclude advocacy agencies. Many times I get a question of like, what does that mean? What is an advocacy agency? What's an example of that? So an example would be an agency that works with domestic violence advocacy, sexual assault advocacy, child abuse advocacy. There's several to mention, but it could not be somebody who advocates on the part of survivors of violence. So I am just going to pause here for a second and see if anybody has questions. If you do, please unmute yourself, or you can use the chat, and Karen and Chelsea will be looking out for that.
There's nothing in the chat so far, Mary.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So our projected funding period is state fiscal year 24. And that's that first section that we talked about. That's January 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2024. So your minimum award would be for each of those sections. So for the first 6 months, it is $30,000. And then for the second 12 months, you would be applying for another $30,000 as a minimum. And our maximum award would be $38,000. Again, for each of those sections. We do not have a match requirement. We are open to including any kind of in-kind contributions or match, but it is not required and you do not need to report that. So our application materials will be found on Amplifund this year. This is the long link here to the Amplifund website, in which you can go on. It'll explain all about the notice of funding opportunity for IFVCC, as well as that's the space where you do apply. And again, this will be available to you in the recording on the website, as well as in Amplifund. So applying for an applying in Amplifund, you must register through the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA, grantee porthole. That is the link there. Applying organizations must identify an individual to submit the application via Amplifund. So this person serves as that primary contact for the application. You can have another individual access to and help complete the application, but we ask that you do identify one person as a contact person. And this is a little introduction to the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or the GATA grantee porthole. There are frequently asked questions and these all have links that you will have access to after this. But there are different resources we have for folks that maybe have not signed up for an Illinois.gov account yet, and how to access GATA in the porthole, as well as Amplifund. This is a little bit about what the application will look like once you do go into the Amplifund opportunity here. You can go ahead and print everything off. So if you're anything like me and you like to have paper things, I'm old school that way, but you can download all of the materials or print them off and work on them that way, and then copy paste into the application. But we will not accept any emailed applications nor mailed applications. They all have to go through Amplifund. Over here, I have just a little example of when you go into Amplifund, it'll initially look like this. It's the authentication porthole. And then you would either choose a public or partner account, whichever you have registered with, and then that would grant you access in there. This is a little bit of a preview of what that looks like once you do get into that application for this notice of funding opportunity. It has you go through steps. We're giving you the opportunity details, a little bit of information about evaluation and scoring, and then you complete information about the project, the application forms, the budget, performance plan, and then you submit. All along the way, you should be using Save and Continue. And that leads me to my next screen, because Amplifund, it will time out after 20 minutes of inactivity. If you have not saved your information, it will be gone. So it's important that you save and continue as much as possible throughout when you're completing the application. You do not have to complete the application all in one full swoop, but that's why it is important to save it. So our program narrative, the forms for this are in Amplifund under application forms. Please answer all the questions in the individual parts of the question when you're going through that program narrative or the project information. Refer to those program requirements and prompts before each question or set of questions when you're completing your response. It's important to actually look through and read the question thoroughly. Sometimes questions have a couple different parts, and you want to make sure that your answer is inclusive of all parts. You've answered all parts of that question. It's important to use the evaluation and scoring as a guide when you're completing your response, so each question is weighted differently. The program narrative should convey any need for the program, current efforts, and understanding and implementation of the required program components. And again, it's a blueprint for your program, and it will be part of your agreement if you are chosen as an applicant. We are asking applicants to use person-centered language. So we ask you to use terms like people, individual, clients, participants. We ask you not to use terms such as offenders or felons. Commonly, we use terms in the Family Violence Coordinating Council, such as survivors, people who experience violence, or people who cause harm. So please just be cognizant of that as you're filling out your application. So the budget and budget narrative, our next screen will give you a little preview of that. But basically you want to read and check the budget acknowledgement on this form. Very important, or you cannot go forward. And then as you get into the actual budget, it's important that you mark as complete on each page and pay attention to what that budget is asking and provide a justification. So again, I know it's kind of small to read, but this is a preview of what that might look like once you get into the application. Again, you can download everything if you'd rather do that on paper first and then transfer it over to the electronic application. Be sure to save and continue as you go. But this is right here where it says acknowledgement, and you have to click that in order to get into that budget. Once you have, your screen will look similar to this. You will go up to the X's on each of these categories. That will then pop up a screen where you would put in the amount of the category or the line that you are budgeting, as well as the justification. Each cost should have a justification, and it really needs to be detailed as to how many, what does that look like? So for instance, if you are traveling, if travel is included, we need to know how many trips, what mileage, how many people are traveling. If it's supplies, we need to know what is the supplies, approximately how many of those supplies at what cost. So be sure to include that in your justifications. And again, can't say it enough, save and continue and mark as complete. The budget must align with the program narrative. It must be allowable, reasonable, and necessary. So we do check that what you do say in your program narrative in all of those questions aligns with what you have outlined in your budget. Include detailed information in the narrative section of the budget, like I said. And I always advise people, just when you think you have enough detail, maybe add a little bit more if you could think of more. Once you are ready to submit, this is your screen. It should have check marks across. I'm not sure why that one doesn't, but it should have check marks across, and then your submit will look like this. So you will know if you have successfully submitted the application. If it says success with a little check mark there, you can always click this to look at your application and print it out, and then you would exit that screen. All required applications, as I have said, must be submitted by Amplifund by 5 p.m. on November 2nd in order to be considered for funding. We cannot accept anything mailed, faxed, in person, anything like that, emailed. We do not accept any of that. And then late submissions will not be reviewed. So if you were able to get in there and they were 5:05 p.m. on November 2nd, we cannot review them. Again, I have given some resources just as some technical assistance to help you through the process, whether it be getting into the GATA grantee portal, creating a user account, registering in Amplifund, just getting around Amplifund, as well as we have a link here for recipes for your success, your recipe for grant success. And that ICEJA actually has that on their website. So it'll link you right there and giving you some tips on completing a grant application. So I'm going to pause again and see if anybody has any questions.
Mary, there's nothing in the chat.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's move forward. If you do have questions, even after this webinar ends, they may only be submitted through this email address. So it's cja.ifvccplanning@illinois.gov. The deadline for the question submission is Thursday, October 26th at 5 p.m. All questions and answers are updated with the NOFO materials. They are updated on both our website, which this includes a link, as well as in Amplifund. So those are updated every Friday. We encourage you to submit early rather than at the deadline, just in case there's technical issues. This is very important, especially since we are using an electronic application for this. Everybody knows all about technical issues when it comes to the electronic world, whether it be, I lost my Wi-Fi or what have you. So please be sure that you try to submit early rather than later. Don't wait till 4 o'clock on that day to submit, just to be on the safe side. So our review and funding process looks a little bit like this. Once everything is reviewed, when we hit that deadline, the staff screens the applications for completeness. Then we have teams of reviewers. They're from both internal and external sources. So some are at ICEJA, some are from different agencies, some are community members. We make sure they cover program issues, research issues, other grant professionals, and they are well trained. Funding recommendations are based on scoring guidelines, and those are outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. And recommendations are then submitted to the ICEJA, or Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, Budget Committee for approval before their start date. A little bit about, again, our reviewers. Each team has 3 trained reviewers. Those scores are averaged. All applicants can receive a maximum of 100 points for the program narrative and budget, but any application that is scored below 70 will not be funded. We cannot accept that. We are giving preferences to the southern counties in Illinois. So this is just a breakdown of our 5 geographic regions that is also outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. But we do not have any family violence coordinating councils currently, implementation sites that are in the southern counties, and so we are giving priority to those. So again, that reiterate southern counties, and then anybody who's above 70, we go with the highest scores and the highest scoring applications. Told you I would repeat this. It's important dates for you to know. So again, All questions about the notice of funding opportunity must be submitted through that specific email address. Don't, even if you know me, don't email me. I can't respond. I will just tell you to email that address. But they need to be submitted by October 26th at 5 p.m. Applications are due on November 2nd at 5 p.m. Our budget committee is December 14th, 2023. And then our performance period, again, to break that out into the fiscal years, state fiscal year 24 is January 1st through June 30th of 2024. And then state fiscal year 25 is July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. And if you haven't seen it enough, there's our deadline. Mark your calendars. This is my contact information. Again, I cannot respond through my regular email. All communication with questions about the notice of funding opportunity have to go through the cga.ifvccplanning@illinois.gov email. And we do post those again on the website, our ICEJA website, as well as Amplifund every Friday. So I will stop sharing to see if anybody has questions. Anything?
There's nothing in the chat.
Okay. Well, this concludes our webinar. We will be staying on a little bit longer just in case there are any questions. But this is all of our information for today. Appreciate your attendance. Again, this recording as well as the PowerPoint will go out onto the ICEJA website as well as in Amplifund. Thank you, Chelsea. She has put the ICEJA website out onto the chat. And I will stop recording.